ופרוס עלינו סוכת, סוכת שלומך ופרוס עלינו סוכת, סוכת שלומך ידי די די ידי די די ידי די 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 ידי די די ידי די די ידי די 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 די. Everyone from the sukkah. We'd like to sing a song celebrating our beautiful sukkah that we have put up. So this is one for more families, but yeah, let's explore how we build this sukkah. This is what we need to build a sukkah: wood and branches, hammer and nails. This is what we need to build a sukkah for this holiday. First we build a frame with wood and cover it with branches. Lots of fun to do. But don't forget that we must see the sun peeking at us through the roof. This is what we need to build a sukkah: wood and branches, hammer and nails. This is what we need to build a sukkah for this holiday. Now it's time to hang the apples, carrots and bananas, pears and popcorn too. But don't forget that we must see the sky peeking at us through the roof. This is what we need to build a sukkah: wood and branches, hammer and nails. This is what we need to build a sukkah for this holiday.
Shabbat shalom, everybody. Can you hear us from inside the sukkah?
Closer.
Yeah, maybe we'll come closer. Come on, we'll come closer. We want to wish everybody a Shabbat shalom from our sukkah, our family sukkah here. And Ari is going to light Shabbat candles and candles for Chag, for Sukkot. From inside our sukkah, we welcome you virtually to come inside. I'm Rabbi Jessica Graf. This is Jonathan Graf.
My name is Ari.
Ari, and who's your little brother?
Zach.
Okay, so we're going to light candles, and Cantor Toby will lead us in the blessing as we welcome Shabbat. Hopefully all of you who have candles will light with us and welcome the light into our sukkahs and into our Shabbat, our evening.
There you go. Set you up here. Those. Can't quite see if they're continue with the bracha while we're lighting our candles. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner של שבת ושל יום טוב.
continue by greeting each other and wishing each other Shabbat Shalom and Chag Sameach. So please introduce yourselves to everyone in your breakout room and wish them a wonderful Sukkot, and let's share something beautiful from the week. I want to thank the two builders in the world, Graf and Merle Crofton, for once again creating a beautiful sukkah for us here. Best sukkah builder ever. We can see you, Merle and Sandy. Shabbat Shalom. Chag Sameach. Thank you for the awesomeness of hanging out and this beautiful structure. So to all of you, we wish you all a Chag Sameach, and we continue by welcoming Shabbat.
I assume that we are continuing with Lecha Dodi. Sorry, I think we just lost a little connection there, but let's welcome the Shabbat bride. Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, B'nei Shabbat, Kabela. Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, B'nei Shabbat. זכור בדיבור אחד ישמיענו אל המיוחד אדוני אחד ושמו אחד ושמו תפארת ולתהילה לך דודי לקראת כלה בני שבת דודי לקראת כלה בני שבת נקבלה התעוררי התעוררי כי באורך קומי אורי 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 שדברי כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה דודי לקראת כלה בני שבת קבלה לך דודי לקראת כלה בני שבת קבלה התעוררי התעוררי כי באורך אדוני עלייך נגלה לך דודי לקראת כלה בני שבת קבלה לך דודי לקראת כלה בני שבת קבלה בואי ושלום עטרת בעלה גם בשמחה ובצהלה תוך אמוני עם סגולה בואי כלה בואי כלה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת כלה
Cantor Toby Glaser joins us from Congregation Shereth Israel's beautiful Middle Eastern sukkah somewhere over on California Street. And Rabbi Phelps joins us from dangling on California Street, yet 2,500 miles away, the modern miracles of technology. So we join together now in the Baruch Hu as we begin the evening part of our service and head right into our holiday. Take a deep breath outside if you're outside. If anybody's outside, will you just wave for us so we can just see if anybody outside at the moment or inside mainly? Okay, just scrolling through. So as we sit outside, we are so grateful for the air that we can breathe. We've been so aware of the air that hasn't been very good quality of late, and we come together as a community to be able to just take a breath, and even if you're inside, to virtually recognize under schach, which is perhaps my favorite Hebrew word, schach, which are these beautiful covering us, as Ari just said a few minutes ago. If it were to rain, it would rain right into this place. And when I was in Phoenix in a sukkah and it was 110 degrees, it was 110 degrees of sun coming right through the schach. So grateful we are to be able to breathe and to be together, to recognize the bounty of our earth, of our environment, of our community, and also remember the fragility that we experience as we come through Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur and are reminded of during this holiday. We take a deep breath now as we join with Cantor Glaser in the words Shema. Mama.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed.
Michamocha reminds us of the freedom that we have, for which we are grateful always, and which we must never take for granted. We join in these words as our ancestors did as they crossed the Red Sea.
We have a special Sinai melody for Micha Mocha, which you may be familiar with, but you may not. But this is one of those untraceable melodies which probably comes from the Middle Ages somewhere in Europe with some Middle Eastern inflections. But please join in if you know this melody. Micha Mocha Bailim Adonai Mi Kamocha Nedar Bakodesh Nora tehilot osef elem Ze Adonai yimloch leolam va'ed Malchutecha ra'u vanecha Okei hayam lifnei Moshe u'Miriam Ze li anu ve'amru Adonai yimloch leolam va'ed. Kivara Adonai et Yaakov, וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני, גאל ישראל.
God, we ask to spread no echoes, to spread over us a sukkah of shalom, a sukkah year-round to bring us wholeness and peace as we go out in this world, which is so unpredictable. And during the week, as we sit in our real coat, we remember the significance truly of a sukkah of shalom, something that just gives us a little bit of shelter from the elements. Hashkivenu.
השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, לשלום, והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים. ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך, ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך.
All right, so Rabbi Phelps, could you just take us forward until we get this resolved?
I certainly can. Bear with me, I have no guitar, but I will happily lead us acoustically. So if you had sat back down again, please rise once more for us to join together in the Amidah, beginning with Adonai Safatai. Adonai Safatai Tiftach, Ufi Yagid Tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Velohei Avoteinu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Velohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Leah, Velohei Rachel. האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומל חסדים טובים, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה, מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. It looks like we might have the cantor back with us. Should I invite you to go ahead and lead us in Gevurot, or should I continue? I think for the moment I'm going to.
I'm gonna just plow on. The cantor seems mute.
All right, well, we shall continue. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע. Is this now? Mashiv haruach umarid hagashem. V'chaim. V'chaye. Oh no. This is very embarrassing. I have interrupted myself.
And then there was the day the rabbi lost track of where she was in the Amidah.
Well, this is what happens when the rabbi doesn't have a siddur and is distracted and doesn't expect to be leading it. Mechalkel is the word I was looking for just then. Mechalkel chayim v'chesed v'chaye hakol berachamim rabim somech noflim v'rofeh cholim umatir asurim ומחיי אמונתו לשני עפר, מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומידו מלך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל, ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקם. Kadosh. I now invite you to take a moment in the midst of all of the craziness of both this service and our lives in general these days, a moment of quiet to pray whatever words you most need to pray this evening. So please engage in a few moments of silent prayer, and then we'll come back together. Ose shalom bimrama, u'ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru, imru amen. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Do we have the cantor back with us? Because if we do, we have some lulav shaking to do, I believe. And if we do not, then perhaps we shall delay it for another few moments. I see.
Hi, yes, sorry, we are just putting everything together. We should be with you in 1 minute. But if you would like to start with Peter, how far off are we?
Just give us another minute.
All right, do you want to maybe do your sermon now, and then we can see if we can get this in a little while?
Sure, happy to give a sermon anytime.
Perfect, excellent.
Well, there we are. Well, the sermon that I wanted to give this evening has a great deal to do with the place where the cantor is at this moment and where Rabbi Graf is, because the question I wanted to begin with this evening is, what exactly is a sukkah, and what does it mean to dwell in one? We think about these things every year when we come to Sukkot, but these questions have taken on new meaning this year. For months, we have been virtually trapped inside our homes, our permanent shelters. How does that change our experience of spending time in fragile, impermanent shelters? The mandated gaps in the roof of the sukkah usually feel like a nuisance, allowing rain and wind to get in while we're trying to enjoy a meal or shake a lulav. But this year, the glimpses of sky and stars these gaps afford may feel more precious to us. The idea of spending time in a temporary, imperfect shelter exposed to the elements may be more appealing than challenging. At the same time, our own homes may feel less reliable as shelters now than they have at times in the past. With fires raging, many of us worry that our homes could literally go up in smoke. And of course, swirling around us all the time is a dangerous airborne disease that respects neither borders nor boundaries. So at a time when we're stuck most of the time inside shelters that are at once somehow too sound and not sound enough, How does that transform Sukkot for us? In a normal year, at studio this Sunday, I would have brought all of our participants out into our sukkah, and I would have asked them, why do we build Sukkot? And, as always, I would have had only half of the answer in mind. I always think first of the agricultural connection, the origins of Sukkot as a pilgrimage festival, a time to bring the fruits of one's harvest to Jerusalem and rejoice in the earth's bounty. This explanation is given in the Torah, in the book of Exodus, but another explanation for Sukkot is given in Leviticus, that we spend the week of Sukkot dwelling in booths in order that our generations should know that God had the children of Israel live in booths when God took them out of the land of Egypt. And every time a studio participant comes up with some version of that response, I have to remind myself that it's correct. I think that's partly because it's not quite as intuitive to me as the agricultural explanation. If I had to guess, I would posit that Sukkot originated as an agricultural festival and only later took on symbolic meaning having to do with the Exodus. But the other problem with the Leviticus-based explanation for Sukkot is that there's no evidence for it anywhere else in Torah. We read over and over again about the Israelites dwelling in tents during their time in the wilderness, but apart from this one reference in Leviticus 23:43, we never hear about them dwelling in booths. Think for a moment about the prayer Ma Tovu, which was first uttered by the non-Israelite prophet Balaam as he looked out over the Israelite camp. Ma Tovu ohalecha Yaakov, mishkanotecha Yisrael. How beautiful are your tents, Jacob, your dwellings, Israel. Tents and dwellings, but no booths. Accordingly, the Talmud records a dispute as to whether the booths we build on Sukkot are meant to recall literal booths or something more abstract and symbolic. Rabbi Akiva says they were literal booths, but his teacher, Rabbi Eliezer, says the Sukkot we build symbolize the clouds of glory, ananei hakavod, clouds filled with divine presence that descended into the Israelite camp soon after the Exodus and guided and sheltered the Israelites throughout their wanderings. Now, this may seem like a stretch, but keep in mind that while there are no descriptions in the Torah of Israelites dwelling in booths in the wilderness, there are many references in Torah to divine clouds accompanying the Israelites in the wilderness. And the prayer Hashkivenu, which we sang together earlier, also supports this symbolic interpretation. In Hashkivenu, we ask God to shelter us beneath a sukkah of shalom, a shelter of peace that we hope will accompany us wherever we go, transcending any merely physical shelter in which we find ourselves. Of course, in its usual fashion, the Talmud records this dispute, but it does not resolve it. It simply offers both interpretations and leaves us to ask, which is correct? And perhaps more importantly, what's the difference? Looking at the second question first, if we did indeed dwell in literal Sukkot during our sojourn in the wilderness, then we were relying for shelter upon especially flimsy structures, easily constructed and deconstructed, maximally portable but minimally protective. If our observance today is meant to recall that experience, then that suggests we should spend Sukkot focusing on our vulnerability, on how our fragile, imperfect Sukkot remind us of the fragility and imperfection of our own existence, how the gaps in the schach, the makeshift covering atop our sukkah, keeps us mindful of the vastness of the sky and nature all around us and how much power they wield over us. If, on the other hand, our Sukkot are meant to recall the divine clouds that accompanied us through the wilderness, then that suggests exactly the opposite, that we build Sukkot to remind ourselves that God's presence is always with us, sheltering us, offering comfort and stability, and perhaps even guidance if we are open to receiving it. So, what happens when we hold both of these meanings together? In that case, Sukkot comes to teach us that even when we feel most secure, we must remember that we are still fundamentally vulnerable. There are always powerful forces affecting us that we cannot control, not least the fires and floods and plague we see around us today. And Sukkot also comes to teach us that even when we feel most vulnerable, there are still things we can rely on for security. A sense of God's presence permeating and ennobling all things. The deep relationships that nourish and strengthen us. A sense that we are part of a human family and a divine project of creation that are more than just the sums of their parts. Whichever teaching feels most present for you on this Sukkot, whether you find it easier to connect with vulnerability or with security, I encourage you to spend this Sukkot stretching yourself to connect with its opposite. May we all take some time this Sukkot to gaze up at the sky through the branches and to meditate both on our fragility and on the sources of strength that transcend it. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, Rabbi Phelps. Thank you so much for your beautiful words of Torah in this festival season. So we had quite a catastrophic network failure of some kind, and so we've shifted to my laptop here, but the sound should still be wonderful. Traditionally, at the end of an Amidah, on a Shacharit, on a morning service, we would recite Hallel, which is really when we would get stuck into our Lulavim. So we're going to do a little taste of Hallel, a little ta'am, to get us in the mood. And because we are a very reformed congregation, we will shake the lulav whenever we like. So let's join together in B'tzeit Yisrael. B'tzeit Yisrael mi Mitzrayim, Bet Yaakov me'am loez. B'tzeit Yisrael mi Mitzrayim, Bet Yaakov me'am loez. Hayta lekod Yehuda lekodsho, Yisrael mamshilotav, hayam na'aveyanos hayaden, Yisov le'achol, B'tzeit Yisrael mi Mitzrayim, Ben Yaakov me'am loez. B'tzeit Yisrael mi Mitzrayim, Ben Yaakov me'am loez. We're now going to move to our Hodu Ladonai, which is the point of the service where we would traditionally shake our lulav. So we're going to take our beautiful lulav. We're going to put the pitam on the bottom, this little symbol of kashrut, that we know that this is a real etrog that we can use for the season. And we're going to recite our Hodu Ladonai while we shake these. We're facing east, by the way, just so you have an orientation. Hodu Ladonai ki tov ki leolam chazo yomana Yisrael ki leolam chazo. And to conclude our miniature Hallel service, we're going to finish with Ozi V'Zimrat Yah, the beautiful words of one of our Hallel Psalms. Ozi V'Zimrat Yah, V'yehi li Lishua. Ozi V'Zimrat Yah, V'yehi li Lishua. וזמרת יד, ויהי לי לישועה. עוזי וזמרת יד, ויהי לי לישועה. עוזי וזמרת יד, ויהי לי לישועה.
We now have the opportunity to pray for healing for all those in need of healing, all those who are in need of healing of mind, body, or spirit. We think particularly this evening of Shoshana Chana Asher, Dr. Elliot Eisenberg, William Kurian, Lenore Levin, Shane Olson, and Carolyn Stellman. And to those names, we add any names that you have in your minds or in your hearts. Please feel free to add those names to the chat and to join us in singing a prayer for healing, Mishaberach.
מקור הברכה אמותינו, may the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say מקור הברכה לאבותינו, bless those in need of healing with refuah shelema, a renewal of body, a renewal of spirit, and let us say
We now take a moment to recall all those whom we have loved and lost. We think this evening in particular for Shiva, the period of 7 days of mourning of Yvette Bolafi, and we add to that any other names of those for whom you are observing Shiva, the first 7 days of mourning. And we also remember for Shloshim, the first 30 days of mourning, Diane Byrne, Robert J. Pincus, and Ernestine Waters Weiss. To those names, we add any names you are observing Shloshim for. The perpetual memorials in our community are Judith M. Escalante Melvin and Art Rosenberg. We also observe the following yahrzeits this evening. I invite you to rise as your loved one's name is read. Ursula D. Elgart, Jerome Feldman, Jack Fessel, Lucille Gabrielle, Irving Katz, Irving Koss, William Landy, Irving Olson, Dorothea Schoenfeld, and Ann Weitzman. And to those names, we add the names of any others whom you are particularly thinking of this evening. We join together in the words of the Mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabbah, v'yalma divrei chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael, v'agala u'v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam u'almei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal shmei d'kudsha brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shmaya, v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, v'imru amen. May the one who creates peace on high bring peace to us, to all Israel, and to all the world. And we say together, Amen. We now take a moment to make any announcements that we need to make. And I want to invite our Executive Director, Gordon Gladstone, to go ahead and unmute and share with us.
Yeah, I would just like to remind everybody that we have another in our series of conversations from the front line coming up this Wednesday, October 7th, a panel on the life and legacy of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, featuring our own judges, Stuart Pollack, Jeffrey Ross, and Catherine Werdiger, and that is at 5 o'clock. You'll be able to find all of the information and links in Under the Dome, in the email that went out this morning, and in subsequent emails or on our website. Back to you, Rabbi.
Thank you. And of course, we will have Torah study tomorrow morning. I will be leading that. Please feel free to join us if you're able to. Studio also resumes this Sunday. So if you are a studio family, you should have gotten some emails today, but please join us this Sunday. And also, for all those who have wondered, when is the Talmud class on hiatus and when is it not? The Talmud class has resumed. We are officially back and we will be meeting this coming Thursday. So please join us for that as well if you're able to. We welcome new joiners and you don't really have to know how to read Talmud. We'll be able to help you out. So we have many exciting programs coming up. Oh, Rabbi Graf wants to add something.
One more announcement. I understand David Newman, on behalf of the RAC, would like to share an announcement with us.
David, please unmute and share if you would like to. You are muted still, but visible to us.
Better?
Yep.
Okay. Early on in the chat, there's a link to a forum that the RAC California is running on Proposition 15, which is the proposition which would change the taxation, property taxation for commercial properties that was set under Prop 13 back in the late when was it, 78, I guess. It's going to be a forum. Both sides will be represented. It should be really interesting. It's maybe the most important proposition on the ballot this year. Check out the link. Makika Wang will be speaking, and I will put it back in the chat again, so you don't have to scroll all the way to the top to find it. But it would be great if people could join us. And there are close to 500 people from Reform congregations all over California already signed up. But I'm sure Israel should be represented because we care about this stuff.
We do indeed. Thank you, David. And if you can join this program and help represent us, we would be really appreciative of that. So we have saved our Shehechianu for a little bit later in the service than we usually do because we want to both celebrate any simchas that are occurring in our community and also say the Shehechianu in the sukkah, as is traditional. This is called, Sukkot is called Zman Simchatenu, the time of our joy. So everything's a simcha right now. Rabbi Graf, did you want to add something?
I just wanted to welcome George Altshuler and family, who a longtime Shereth Israel family. Many of you may know the whole family, but George is on the path to be number 9 as a Shereth Israel, I don't know if born and raised is true, but raised certainly, rabbi out there in the world. And George is home now spending time with his family, and we're so glad to be able to welcome all of you and look forward to having you guys as very much part of our Shereth Israel family, your home community, now that you are home but serving a congregation in Pennsylvania from here. So anyway, welcome to all of you, and without further ado, let's shake our lulavim.
Yes, Cantor, please.
So, our first blessing, we haven't acknowledged this beautiful dwelling in the sukkah. So, our first blessing this evening is going to be Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher Kiddishanu B'mitzvotav Vetzivanu Leshev Basukkah. Amen. Our next blessing is going to be for our beautiful lulavim, which we received, so we take our piton while we're saying the blessing, we place it down, and then we turn it the other way when we are doing our shaking. So Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher Kiddishanu B'mitzvotav Vetzivanu Al Netilat Lulav. So we shake first to the east. Yai da 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 da, yai da 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 da, yai da 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 da, yai da 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 da. Ya da 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 da, ya da 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 da, ya da da da, ya da 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 da. And if people have shared their smachot, let's join together in this beautiful season. Zman Simchatenu, Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam, Shehechianu Vekiyamanu Vehigianu Lazman Hazeh. Amen.
There is one particular simcha that I know of in our community. Ella Bernstein is turning 7 today, right on this very day. And I would love to invite Hillary Krant and Jack Bernstein and Ella Bernstein and whomever else is present. There we go, Ella Bernstein and family. If we could spotlight you guys so that you can have a chance to show us your birthday selves and your kiddish. Oh, you got a cool tiara. I love it. Happy birthday, Ella.
Thank you.
What did you do for your birthday? Did you get to do anything fun?
Yeah, I had a play date with my friend, and we all sang happy birthday, and we had cupcakes.
That sounds great.
And in the afternoon, I called my grandma, my grandpa, my auntie, and we all opened presents and sung happy birthday.
Very nice. Good for you. Well, happy birthday, Ella. And I understand your family is going to lead us in the Borei Pri Hagafen prayer, and then we're going to hand it over to the cantor for the longer kiddush. So if you guys want to go right ahead and lead us.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pori hagafen. Amen.
Amen. Well done.
And we have actually tonight a special kiddush because we are sanctifying not only Shabbat but this wonderful festival. So please, if you can't sing along, I'm sorry, but I wanted to show off this beautiful nusach, this beautiful chant style that we reserve only for Chagim, for festivals. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Asher bachar banu mikol am Veromamanu mikol lashon Vekidishanu b'mitzvotav Vatiten lanu Adonai Eloheinu be'ahava Shabbatot limnucha Umoedim lesimcha Hagim uzmanim lesason Et yom ha-Shabbat hazeh Ve'et yom hag ha-Sukkot hazeh Zman simchatenu Be'ahava mikra kodesh Zecher letziat Mitzrayim Kivanu v'acharta, ve'otanu kidashta, mikol ha'amim. Ve'shabbat u'moedei kodshecha, be'ahava uvratzon, be'simcha uv'sason, hinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh ha-Shabbat, ve'Yisrael ve'hazmanim. Amen. L'chaim.
Chaim. That is a beautiful kiddush. Thank you. Now, anyone who has a particularly beautiful challah, I invite you to hold it up so that we can all see and be appropriately envious. And we will go ahead and say a motzi so that we may all enjoy our chalot. Ah, beautiful, Roberta and Steve. I see your challah. I'm not surprised that it's beautiful. So, Cantor Glaser, if you would please lead us in the motzi.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz b'te'avon.
B'te'avon, enjoy. We wish you a wonderful evening, and before we conclude, we want to send you off with a little bit more music. So Cantor, if you would, please lead us.
Yes, we got a fun song called the Lulav Shake. Guess what it's about? It is about shaking your lulav. So even if you don't have one, shake yourselves and just enjoy this fun Sukkot tune. Sukkot is a harvest holiday. The celebration lasts for 7 days. We build our sukkah, then we decorate a special booth in which we congregate. Do the lulav shake, shake, shake. Do the lulav shake, shake, shake. Do the lulav shake, shake, shake. Do the lulav shake. Do the lulav shake, shake, shake. Do the lulav shake, shake, shake. Do the lulav shake, shake, shake. Do the lulav shake. Symbols of Sukkot quite unique. They stay with us for all the week. The etrog smell, it gets into the air. We wave the lulav everywhere. To the lulav shake, shake, shake. To the lulav shake, shake, shake. To the lulav shake, shake, shake. To the lulav shake. To the lulav shake, shake, shake. To the lulav shake, shake, shake. To the lulav shake, shake, shake. To the lulav shake. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Chag Sameach.
Shabbat shalom.
Shalom. Chag Sameach.